Officially on the record here, guys.
We're ready to go?
Whenever you are.
Great, great.
I guess we haven't met, yes.
I guess I'm switching back and forth in my glasses. Good evening and welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Town of Ulysses Board of Zoning Appeals for January 18th, 2023. Clerk, please take the roll.
Andy Hillman.
Here.
We have George Butler.
Tom,
Tom Butler.
you've done that before.
I have done that before.
You know a George Butler somewhere in your past.
I do. We have David Tyler and we have Cheryl Thompson. We have Lou DiPietro, Deputy Clerk. And Niels, Town Planner, Town Planner.
Thanks, Lou. So for tonight's, this meeting is a hybrid meeting. For those of you joining us online, please mute your microphone or telephone. There will be an opportunity to address the board on matters not on tonight's agenda during the privilege of the floor. Please keep your comments to the board to 3 minutes in length. There will also be an opportunity for the public to voice their comments to the board regarding the action items on tonight's agenda. If you are participating remotely, please unmute your phone or computer at that time, and after you have completed your comment, please mute your phone or computer again. Thank you. So for tonight's meeting, as both Steve and Bob, the board's chair and vice chair respectively, are not with us, do I have a motion to appoint an interim chair for tonight's meeting?
You do. I request your appointment.
Okay, motion by Dave to appoint me as interim chair, seconded by Cheryl.
Tillman.
All in favor, say, huh? Aye.
Hi.
Also then, because we need our alternate for a quorum tonight, I'd like a motion to appoint Tom Butler as a voting member of the BZA tonight.
So moved.
So moved by David,
Okay.
second by Cheryl. All in favor, say aye. Aye. So, thank you. So we'll go to, we have a couple minutes to approve. And I see we've got these early on the agenda. Have we, Lou, in the past moved the minutes approval to after the?
Yeah.
But then we never do it, so.
But then we don't get to it,
If
so
anyone, if anyone is not ready, then
we could go ahead and do it now then, I suppose, right?
unless there's any
I
objections,
think
I'd say
that's
let's
a
get it.
better
Okay,
way to do it.
okay, thanks, thanks Lou for providing the minutes from. So I'm looking at Wednesday, November 17th, 2021.
Hmm.
And is that right? Is that the right?
This is Wednesday, November 7th.
Wait a minute, I think I
17th.
might have opened up the wrong minutes.
Yeah, you got
Here we go.
September 21 of 2022, so last year. And there was another set from February. We only met 2 or 3 times last year.
Right,
February 16th of a year ago and November 21st of a year ago.
okay, so February 16th, 2022 minutes. Do we have any additions, deletions, or
I
corrections?
don't remember that, so I'm just gonna move it.
Well, I think I saw something that, oh, no, not in that one. Okay. Okay, I have a motion to approve the minutes. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Get a second?
Second by Tom. All in favor of approving the minutes from February 16th, 2022, say aye. Aye. Okay, those minutes are approved.
The second one is September 21. September 21, 2022.
As I recall, I recused myself, or I didn't
You didn't vote.
vote.
That's
You
correct.
vote, you abstained.
And so I
Not re-
thought I saw it unanimously, the motion and unanimously, approved. I don't think that's quite correct.
No, it's result is the variance request were approved. The only thing that was unanimously carried was the motion to adjourn. There's not a motion. The only motion was made when,
Oh, I see.
Cheryl.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
And, okay, actually, I saved the wrong, minutes into this folder, but is that the one that doesn't list me in the top, but I was here?
were you
How
here
are
for
we gonna
September?
know
I
that?
think because I made a motion.
Oh, you did. You
Right.
absolutely did. Yeah, I have you written in the minutes. You're right.
Okay, yeah, so I think I was here, but
Very
it says,
close.
doesn't list me as being present.
Good catch.
Any other corrections, additions, deletions?
So that correction, I think that's important.
Yeah,
So, okay, do I have a motion to approve those minutes? The minutes of
I move the minutes correctly.
September 21st.
Yep.
2022. We have a motion by David,
Second.
second by Tom. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Okay, we have the minutes approved. Thank you. Thank you for your,
We already approved Tom, right?
yes. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate though. Keep me, this is the first time I've done this, so please be patient with me. Great, right, we have our minutes approved and now we're moving on to the
And frankly, I think that's what to be the practice in the future, because we already get to the end of the meeting and we never get to the minutes,
yeah.
right?
that's true.
Okay, so approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion to amend the draft agenda? You all have it?
Yep.
Okay, have a motion to approve the draft agenda as provided to us by Niels.
So move.
I second. If I need to.
Moved by Tom, second by Cheryl, all in favor, say aye.
Okay, so I guess we have privilege of the floor.
We're just approving the agenda first.
Right, right.
And we have I'm sorry, I should have done that before the past minutes, but and now item number 4 is privilege of the floor portion of tonight's meeting. The board will now welcome the public to address the board and provide any comment on any item not on tonight's agenda. Please remember to keep your,
Rich, you are the official liaison? Yeah. Okay.
please remember to keep your any comment to 3 minutes. Do I have anyone who wishes to speak with privilege of the floor? Do we have people participating online?
None.
Okay, thanks. So,
So can do you have a
Yes.
screen there where you can see the public? No.
up there,
Oh,
no,
all right, okay.
yeah, up there. Okay, tonight's agenda item number 5, action items. We have one item, the Murray setback variance, which I will turn over to staff.
Good evening, Neil Stevenson, town planner. We do have one applicant for a setback variance by Tyler Murray. Project site is located at 4279 Reynolds Road. Tax parcel is 24.4-9.115. The request is to construct a new detached accessory structure. It will be a garage that is 24 by 26 with an attached carport of 18 by 24 within a side setback. The subject site is zoned agricultural rural, which requires a 30-foot side setback. There is a provision for accessory structures that permits the setback to reduce 20%, so down to 24 feet would be the minimum required. They are proposing, I believe, 5 feet from that side setback. For the record, there are 7 exhibits. The staff report is exhibit 1. A project site summary is exhibit 2. The applicant submission packet is exhibit 3. The affidavit of publication in the Ithaca Journal is exhibit 4. The intergovernmental agreement between Tompkins County and the town is exhibit 5. We received 1 comment letter from Scott Amula. He's the neighboring property owner to the east. Dated January 15th. That is exhibit 6. And then there is a compilation of sections of reference codes and laws, which is exhibit 7. Like to open it up to the applicant to address the board if they'd like to, and then if there's any questions to staff or the applicant.
Thank you.
Sure. The building permit that we put in for the garage was in October. And then that was turned down based on the side setback. The original house was built in 2005, so the shed that was built there, good size shed was built there at the 5-foot setback. And then the well is at a 5-foot-ish setback. And then the buried LP tank that supports the house is at the same setback. So during the original construction, the house is then not set over in the middle of the property, it's set back towards that as well. So when we looked at, could we move it to the 24-foot, it'd be in front of the house, or would hit the house, so there is room to do that. So the appeal was identified to build the same garage, but build it on the line of the 5-foot shed. And then-
Excuse me, can you speak up a little bit? Because I'm having trouble with my hearing aids.
Yeah. So the proposed was to build the garage on the 5-foot line that the shed is on, and then we wouldn't move it towards the back of the property at all, because that's where the LP tank and the well are, same distance from the line. Speaking with the next,
Forgive me, can we back up just 1 second? Would you please just state your name and your address?
I'm sorry, my name is Ted Murray. My address is 3082 Jacksonville Road.
Thanks.
The property is my son's Tyler's Reynolds Road. But then we proposed to keep it at that line, spoke with the neighbor, Scott Hamlin, he's the next door neighbor. It's a vacant lot between Tyler's house and Scott's house, and he was fine with not getting closer to the line, but staying at that 5-foot set off.
Are you the adjacent neighbor?
No.
Oh,
No, it's
He lives
my,
in Jacksonville.
okay. all right.
yeah, it's my house.
Yeah, I guess I'd leave it for questions. If anybody has any questions.
Okay, well, do you have anything else to say, Mr. Murray, do you have anything to say about it?
The
To
only thing I'd
add
have
to
to
what
say
your
is-
dad said?
You can't go to the other side of the property, because that's where our septic and leach field goes out that direction. So it's really kind of the only place that we're able to put it at this point. Really our only option, but
It looked like the well was actually maybe more like 2 feet from the property line, not 5 feet, as where the back of the shed is.
Yeah, so the well is close.
And when that shed was built, was that the same time as the house?
it might have been a little bit after the house was originally built.
And-
Not 100% sure the exact date that was built.
And did the shed require a variance?
I'm not sure.
I can speak to that if you want.
Yes, please.
So
Thanks.
for timeline, we can presume it's between 2011, 2013, I believe, just from aerial images. It looks like that was constructed. According to the county assessor records, it's 10 by 14, which would have been under the threshold for a building permit. So it's possible the owner at the time, they may have request or asked if it needed a permit. They're probably told no, because it's under that threshold, so they probably thought it was good to go. It does not look like there was a application to the BZA for a setback variance, so there was no. From what I can tell, there was no variance granted for that shed, but it should have received one.
Thanks, Neil. So
So my understanding that the shed and the well and all of these things would have required a variance to be done.
The shed would, it sounds as if the way your code is written, that the well and septic lines and things underground that are ancillary to the structure are exempt from the setback requirements.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have any written something, statement in the file as to the next adjacent neighbor where the variance would impinge?
We do, and do we need to read that into the record, or can we just put Mr. Scott Humula,
And,
yeah, his enter his letter of support?
Is it short?
It is relatively short, yeah,
Let's read it.
okay,
We usually, in the past, we've sometimes, if there were an electronic letter, I'd drop it right into the minutes. Maybe we could do something similar with this, if you'd like.
yeah, yeah.
Wanna do that?
We read it.
Have you seen it?
I have, but I don't have it. I don't have that letter in front of me. I can pull it up on the email, but if I could just read it now into the record, that would be great. Thanks. All right, so this is to the Board of Zoning Appeals from Mr. Scott Hemla, the next door neighbor, dated January 15th, 2023. Dear Board of Zoning Appeals, as the owner of the adjacent property, I am submitting this letter of support for the Board of Zoning Appeals application submitted by Tyler Murray, which seeks a setback variance to replace an existing shed with a newly constructed garage. While the application does not appear to specifically state the proposed setback, I am assuming the setback will be at least 5 feet from the property line. Since on page 14 of the application, a line drawn from the back of the new garage overlays the same line as the back of the existing shed. And on page 3 of the application, it states that the shed setback is 5 feet from the property line. I have not verified these measurements. Respectively, Scott R. Hamila.
Okay, that's Scott Hamala.
Yes, yes. All right, so do I have a motion to open the public hearing on the requested variance?
Yeah.
So it's moved by Cheryl, second by Tom, to open the public hearing part of the variance application is open at this time. And do we have any other comments? Anyone online wishing to speak?
No one online.
Okay,
I've
thanks.
I've not received any other comments. Besides Scott Hamill's.
Okay, well, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay.
Yeah.
The public hearings part of the variance application request is closed. So before us is a draft resolution. You should all have it in your packet. Or it's be in the back. Is there any discussion on the resolution or any motions to amend the resolution?
I guess I have a question. Looking at the survey map and the sketch of the proposed improvement. It looks to me like it's 4.7 feet from the line.
4.7.
That's what I see here.
Yep, that's what it says. Yeah.
Okay,
I know there's a little confusion between 5 feet and 4.7, but I don't know if on the ground. if you agree with
the letter you read said what,
5 feet.
5 feet?
I
I
think,
think that's, I just wanted to make that clear that we don't have that.
Exactly. Right.
And
Yeah.
it looks like that dimension is all the way to the rear. So, okay, so I guess I'm,
so for the record, can we say it's approximately 4.7 feet, or is it?
Yeah, 4.7 is one corner of the existing shed.
yeah, I
We
mean,
would
that's,
be straightening it. to
that's what
5.
Lee Dresser measured,
Pardon me?
the surveyor.
Okay, so he's saying that the new shed will be a full 5 feet from the property
All
line.
right, okay.
So we do need to clarify that in our motion.
Yeah.
Or not in the motion, in the resolution.
Yeah. Any other comments from the board?
I have.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Tom, Cheryl?
one of the things that I have always been aware of in zoning is that we aren't zoning just for the current situation. We're zoning for down the line. And what we as a board have to take into account is the rights of someone who may buy that lot next door to you. And right now, the owner of it has no problem, but you are in a sense foreclosing options for a future owner of that property by building so very close to the line, and that's why the zoning says you should have a setback. The existing shed is very much in violation of the current zoning. And while, yeah, I mean, there's room to move things from time to time, but to go 5 feet from the line with a new structure of that size does really impinge on that next piece of property. So I have real problems with that. I don't know whether the nature of the septic field means you really can't go on the other side or behind your house for that garage. You could have a longer driveway and go behind the house for a garage. I know that's the most convenient place to put it. I know it's where you want it. But it is very much in violation of the zoning code. And I have trouble with violating the code that much.
I'd like to come back
Thanks,
to
Tom.
this issue of the.
Can we go to Cheryl first, then I'll come right back to you?
What's that?
Cheryl's,
I'm sorry.
and then
I'm
just,
sorry.
we'll be right back to you, David.
Oh,
Let's see, so. Yeah, 5 feet is very close. Could it get moved out partway and not, like, could it be another 5 feet or something and still work for you? Or, I mean, it looks like it almost overlaps the corner of the house, so.
The 24 foot for the depth, at the 5 feet starts to push the corner. Bringing it out any further would be, the garage would have to be less in depth if it's brought out from the 5 feet. And then the length of a car wouldn't be able to park.
Like, do you know how much space you're gonna have between the corner of the house and the new building?
Probably 5-ish
Really?
feet. Enough to kind of try to mow through there.
Yeah, it looks like, all right, so it says 40 feet here. If I subtract 24, you got 16. Plus the 5 foot setback, so 11, looks like 11. Does that make sense? That's pretty close.
Approximately.
I mean, that's a pretty tight little hallway for that. Okay. Could you move it a little toward the road?
It kind of starts sloping down the hill more,
Mhm,
the farther we go towards the road.
okay.
We're trying to keep it as level as possible.
But it would be possible to move it forward. You'd have to have more of a, you'd have to do more of a foundation
Forward towards the road.
towards the road.
Yeah,
If we're talking about the gap between the house and the shed being, can't get any smaller if you move the shed directly toward the house, but if you move the shed 10 feet farther forward, then you've got more ability to get side setbacks.
And then the closer we get to the driveway, then we need the ability to get back and be able to
Sure.
start a vehicle into it.
But the driveway could be widened to allow that turn. Couldn't it?
Well, if we have to widen that on the opposite side, and that would require taking trees out and such.
I know, ideally, from your point of view, you want it right here in this way, but it does, that is significantly in violation of the zoning. And the zoning is there for a reason, so. You never want to be inconvenienced when you're trying to do something on your property that you really want, but that's what zoning is about, the future needs of people to be protected.
So,
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, David, you have a,
no, as I say, I'm for me, this request turns on the timeline of when the shed was put up. And you say, I understood you to say that the shed was okay when it was erected.
It did not require a building permit,
All right.
but from the time, from aerials, it looks, again, 2011, 2013, it was constructed.
Why was that?
What was that?
Why was that?
Something that small, you don't really have to get a permit, if it's under
Okay.
really small.
But the zoning regulations at the time are essentially the same as they are now as far as the setback, so it would have required a variance.
So you don't need a permit, but you would still need a variance because you're violating what the zoning was.
Correct.
But then you can't trigger the variance if you don't go in for a permit.
Not necessarily true. I mean, the property owner is still beholden to the zoning code regardless of whether or not they need a building permit. They wouldn't have necessarily sought an appeal of the planner's determination, but it would have been a variance before the board from the zoning regulations.
They just wouldn't have known that. I have a question on this drawing. It says replaces 15 by 21 bay. What does that mean?
The shed that's there.
Oh,
has
that's 15 by 20.
It's a little bit smaller than.
Okay. Okay, well that if it was 300 square feet, then
That would have required a building.
yeah. Is it like something they brought in, or was it built on site?
I think it was built on site. It looks like it was built on site.
Okay. So it's a little tough because it does look good there, it fits for you and it works, but then. It's just a lot of infringement on our zoning, anything about the next person. That like live next door or some, maybe probably. Would you mind if they built something 5 feet from the property line on their side?
It wouldn't have an impact on. Your side.
Right.
I mean, it would not have an impact on Tyler's property. They would be able to do just about any setback if they most likely wouldn't put a house over that close, but they may.
No, I don't think you. No, I don't think we would. Give them variance for a house, but.
So from our zoning officer now, is that shed? Was it a non-conforming use or was it just uncovered by the law?
It would not be considered non-conforming. It is.
It would not. Okay, the reason I'm asking is you can't, let's put it this way, the case law is pretty clear that you can't bootstrap a non-conforming use to making, enlarging a non-conforming use.
The only way it would be non-conforming is if, when it was constructed, it was compliant with the zoning code at the time, which it was not.
Anyway, well, let's say I think it's important that we have that letter from the neighbor. I take it he doesn't have a house there.
It's
No.
currently vacant.
Does the neighbor have a house?
No.
It's a vacant
It's a
lot.
vacant lot.
It's real. This is the lot right here, dude.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, so that's. That for me. Let's put it this way, did anyone visit the site?
Yes. I think, I did, I know
Okay.
Cheryl did, yeah. We make it a habit of doing that.
What?
We usually do that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to revisit Tom's question, if I may, looking at the aerial about putting the garage in the back. You could do that and wouldn't have to worry about a variance, I believe.
And I kind of lose my access to it at that point. I'd end up having to put in a whole other driveway
Around
to
the,
access.
around to the backside of the house.
Right, and it would most likely have to be to the west. So I wouldn't be going over the water line, the propane line. and stuff like that.
Right. So, I too have a little problem with it's not a non-compliant, building, it's, you know, what do we call it? Not. It's not in that. The existing building that's there, you know, was built without a permit and without a variance. And so simply replacing that now with something bigger in the same exact place, doesn't seem like the best way to go. Especially when there are alternatives, other places to put it.
The only thing I can say on that point is there's a provision in the law, I believe it's RPAPL section 2001, which says basically that neighbors have 2 years to object to things that are too close to the line or whatever. And so if in fact that shed has been there for more than 2 years, that would, you know,
Yeah, it's been there for, like 15 years or something.
right, exactly. So I'm just saying, that's. There's, the law gives you 2 years to object. And if they, you, within the 2 years, and you're, you know, you're making a good claim, the improvement's gonna have to come down.
But David,
It's
whether
a
or
statute
not,
of limitations.
So it doesn't have to be removed necessarily if a neighbor objected at this point. That's that your
No,
point?
what I'm saying is, if the neighbor had objected within 2 years, then it would have to come down.
yeah, but this isn't an issue of the neighbor objecting. Neighbor has objected.
I'm just,
But by the zoning, that building shouldn't be there.
right, no, I understand. I'm just putting that out there as kind of a hypothetical.
I have a question, is this garage for, just private residential use?
Sorry, what was that?
Is the garage for private residential use? Cause you have a 2-car garage, it looks like in the front there, but this is just more vehicles.
Yes, to clean out what's in the garage right now, so my wife can park in there.
Mhm.
And put all that stuff in what we want to build. More storage in the new structure. And having the attached garage, as. During the winter time, being to drive in there and then worry about my
Right.
kids out.
Okay, but the asphalt grind that shows in the survey, that services a vehicle
Yeah,
storage area,
there's a 2-car garage, right,
right,
there,
okay,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
right, 2-car, Yeah.
There's 20 by 22-ish, I think it is.
Any other comments from the board or?
Yeah,
Yes,
Let me just, I'm sorry to be doing this because I know it's also a financial consideration. Is there physically any reason you could not run a driveway up the other side of the property to a good sized garage behind the house? Is there any physical reason you couldn't do that? There may be a financial reason you couldn't do that, but is there a physical reason you couldn't do that?
I'd have to see exactly where the leach field on the septic goes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know exactly how far towards that side of the property.
Yeah.
It runs, that would be the only thing.
And the barn that's way out back, that's someone else's property and someone else's driveway.
Well, if another driveway went in, it would be more towards Tyler's house, and then that is where the sand filter and then distribution goes.
It's not,
well, does anyone have any other comments, and who would like to tackle the resolution, propose a resolution? Which we have a draft.
Do we need to have to the seeker before?
Oh. Thank you. It's classified as a type 2 action, which does not require seeker. I didn't address that. So thank you.
Thanks, Niels. I was supposed to ask that, probably.
Well, I should have.
Does this require a seeker?
Yeah, I should have covered that in my, it's covered in the staff report. I just didn't address it during the meeting.
Thank you. Anything else?
I think it's a very hard It's so hard.
Yeah.
For me to, because I see how it works for them and the neighbor, the catch is, I mean, the thing, and they said the neighbor next door is fine. with it. So that makes it just us. They have to draw a line if we run over the road. 'Cause it, I mean, we've had other ones that are like this, but usually the neighbor will be in here saying,
Right, that would make it real clear.
Unfortunately, the potential future neighbor doesn't exist yet, because
"Mhm,
that is a separate lot, it's an empty lot.
Yeah.
But that can become a residential lot. That then is impacted by what you do on your lot.
But it wouldn't limit what they were in.
Well,
We're not certain about that. For instance, where could they put in a septic system? You know, anywhere on their property, you know, we're within the law. When the well is within 2 feet of the line,
the well isn't really on our jurisdiction.
no,
But there is a setback for septics from buildings. I think 100 feet, or, but I'm not sure about that, but there is a setback from buildings.
okay.
So yeah, they're not sharing that burden equally with the neighbor.
So I'm seeing that there's potentially another way to resolve this that doesn't require a variance. And which is putting a storage building or another garage, which in behind the house, and going around it. It looks like that's feasible.
I think he's saying he can't access it because of the well and the gas line and the water line that goes from the property over to the house.
Back of the property is quite a bit wetter as well. I mean, it would. There'd be a lot of issues with putting a garage or kind of putting a garage back there. Getting to it. Potentially with with another driveway up the far side of the driveway next to the neighbor's driveway that goes to the barn.
On the west side.
Yeah.
Okay, well, does anyone want to move this resolution? We all have a copy of a draft that can be marked up. Right, you do, David.
Still kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
That's Tom Phillips.
You want to,
I'm sorry, Cheryl's got a poll between you and me, and you don't speak very loudly, and my hearing aids
Yeah.
are turned up all the way. So
so, yeah, sorry about that. Cheryl was just suggesting you might want to
Cheryl's trying not to
take
do
this
it.
on.
You don't want to do it.
Passing the buck.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
thanks,
Now,
thanks, Tom.
where do we have to start actually citing the whole first page or just the second page?
I think we could start right from the beginning. It's not that long and just read through the written.
Usually don't we start down here with the
The whereas above the listed numbers.
I don't know, whatever.
It's not gonna take long. Yeah, why don't you just read
You
it?
want to read this whole thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Let me know.
Usually go through the criteria.
What?
Usually go through the criteria.
Yeah,
You skip ahead and just go to the 6, but, or the 5 question, but it's
So
up to you. If you want to read the whole
So
resolution.
starting here,
Yeah, sorry.
starting at the last whereas on the first page.
Starting with the last whereas. Okay. Whereas by considering the criteria listed in the consolidated laws of New York, chapter 62, article 16, section 267 B 3B. The BZA reviewed the record and weighed the benefits to the applicant against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood if the variances were granted. And 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the area variances. 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. 3, whether the requested area variances are substantial. 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental condition in the neighborhood or district. 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. Considering all of the statutory factors set forth above, the Board of Zoning Appeals concludes that decreasing the side lot setback from 24 feet to 5 feet from the east side of the lot.
Hey, Tom, before we move on, we
Yeah.
actually have to go through each one of those each one of those questions, and write out short what the board wants to put in
That's what
there.
he's gonna do right now. I think.
Well, he's reading the therefore it resolves. So you're not ready to make a decision yet, because you haven't drawn up.
Oh,
You haven't drawn up, you haven't answered the criteria, those questions those 5 questions.
Right, that's what we're going to right now.
Yeah, so let's go back here and answer whether an undesirable change will be produced.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we did it.
So the
I thought,
okay.
I thought
resolution,
this proposed resolution, I thought we did that here.
resolutions answers the questions we're supposed to decide.
Yeah,
Right.
but then they usually write in language, they craft language to go into to answer every one of these criteria.
Let's take them one by one.
We gotta integrate these 2 sections.
I just want to say, well,
No. Yeah, no.
Yeah, we put the conclusion to the 5 questions before we've answered the 5 questions.
Typically, you're handed a draft resolution with those already kind of drafted for you into those, whether or not an undesirable change will be produced. In this case, we're starting from scratch. We have nothing to go on. So that's where the board needs to take over and decide. All right. Will there be another undesirable
Well,
change?
Basically, we should do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before we then say it will or will not.
Exactly. Before we move on to the therefore it must be resolved, we need to back up and do the whether or not undesirable change, the 5 criteria you always tackle. We need to kind
All right,
of adjust those one by one.
Right, but on the back, what's laid out is what will and what will not,
Exactly.
that we get to choose.
Right.
But you want me to read it from the one that doesn't have those options printed on it.
Who would normally draft the initial?
Yeah, there's usually some draft language in there for them to tweak for each one of those criteria. In this case, there isn't, it's just blank, so.
So we just make it up.
We're gonna have to write a little bit.
All right, so
So this may just be a working thing and we can tackle more thoroughly with next month's agenda. Just a more working relationship between the board and planner, but my experience with resolutions and boards is like Tom just read, the portions, the last whereas. You've already deliberated, it sounds like, on these items, and so now therefore, the only thing now you have to resolve now is whether or not you're gonna say will or will not. Like, so the highlighted portions in yellow,
Right.
you don't necessarily need, there's nothing in law that says you have to have verbatim why you feel, et cetera, that's already conveyed in the minutes of the reporting.
This question is easy, I think is 5.
Well,
Well,
I think that the 3 of them are easy, and if I may, I think that 5 is definitely,
you draft the resolution then, I guess.
oh, like,
Go ahead.
okay, I would just say that, number 2 is a yes, and number 3 is a yes, and number 5 is a yes. Does the board agree with that?
I'm not sure about number 2.
It can't be achieved, you think it cannot be achieved by,
Well, I mean,
That's the question.
yeah, that's kind of the question. I mean. Hypothetically, it can, but would they? I don't think they would get the benefit that they seek. So I don't know if that is fair.
fair enough.
I mean, I think moving it toward the road is a.
I understood that I was going to propose a resolution
Yeah.
and you were going to either accept it, reject it, or want to change it.
Right, so let's,
Alright.
yeah, so let me rewind and go back to
All right.
where we are.
So-
Thank you.
Here is what I am proposing, and
Okay,
then you can say, well, no, we'd really like to change the wording on this or that.
okay.
Wait, thank you.
So I'm proposing in reference to whether an undesirable change, which is number one. I would say it will create an undesirable change. I'm sorry, it will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood and will be a detriment to nearby properties. Number two,
Okay, you're saying will be a detriment to
Yes.
nearby?
So it's kind of.
because it forecloses the option to
Right,
build
right, okay,
Yeah, I
because it's so
agree.
close to the property line.
I agree with that.
Number two, it can be achieved by another method feasible for the applicant to pursue. Number three, it is substantial.
that's right.
Yep, I agree with that.
Number four, it will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood district. And number five, it is self-created.
And so, yeah, and then
And
so,
so there, okay, for the reasons set forth above in the evidence and law and facts, the BZA hereby in my draft does not grant the area variance requested by the applicant to decrease the side yard setback from the east lot from 24 feet to 5 feet for the purpose of a detached garage and carport located at 4279 Reynolds Road.
thanks, Tom.
So that's a proposal to turn down the variance.
And so, Tom, thank you for doing that. We have a second for this proposal, this resolution.
Yeah, because that's,
So for this,
we're gonna give it.
Yeah.
For
second
discussion.
by Dave, and discussion before we vote.
I do have one legal thing, and I'm
Sure.
not sure if
Okay,
Rich may be able to help me on this. When I've looked at town law under state law, it looks like the BZAs are granted the ability to grant a variance and make conditions. It does not look like they have the authority to deny a requested variance. So what happens is that last part where Tom mentioned, for the reasons set forth here, the BZA here does not grant. I think, if I'm reading the law correctly, it sounds like it should still say the BZA hereby does grant the area variance.
You're saying the BZA does not have the power to say no.
I know it sounds weird. And I know it sounds weird, but when it comes down to it, if you all say nay, then you're
Okay.
denying this, and then in effect, it's a denial. And now it's might be semantics, and it's a question I have to our legal counsel. But I'm not sure that the BZA officially has the authority by state statute to outright deny in the resolution.
Yet grammatically and from my legal background, I see exactly what you're saying, and you're right. We propose that we grant it, but we as a board say no.
Correct.
But the proposal has to be that we grant it despite all of these things.
Correct.
And then if we don't want to grant it, we have to vote no.
Correct.
We don't propose that we don't. So just take my phrase that does not to does grant, and then we'll see whether or not it is passed. That makes
So-
sense.
so,
Does that make sense, Debbie?
Yes, so where we put in for the reasons set forth above and above the evidence, law and effects of the BZA hereby does. You added not, we cross that out now.
Right, we don't take
Got
that, we don't have that now.
Does everyone understand the resolution then?
well, I'm gonna ask Tom, since he made the resolution, to defend it.
I'm sorry, I don't hear any better than you do, David, try again.
I'm gonna ask you if you will defend your resolution.
He's sort of done that already, I thought.
Well,
Which part are you interested in hearing?
What
about?
do you have a problem with, David?
of the item number one. He says, will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. I see that. But he will be a detriment to nearby properties.
The next door neighbor will have a structure constructed 5 feet from their
Right,
property
okay.
line.
All right.
The potential next door neighbor and the lot next door. Will be
Since there's no-
constrained
since-
by that
Since there's
structure.
no improvement there, we're kind of prejudging. If we say, this is okay, we're kind of prejudging the setback requirements in the in the zoning ordinance. In other words, if somebody came along and built a house there
Yeah,
and said, no, I don't like the garage that close to the line. If we granted the variance, we would have foreclosed that particular debate.
exactly, and that is why I say it is a detriment to the next, to the property next door.
Okay,
It seems unusual for us to split that one. I don't know if we've ever done it. I understand what you're saying and I.
Yeah, I think it's
Agree,
accurate.
but what's that?
I think Tom is being accurate by doing that.
Yeah, well,
Two
then,
very definite, different conditions here. It
me-
does no problem to the neighborhood, but it is a problem for the adjacent lot.
can I talk to staff about that? We're splitting this up where we're saying it's not going to create an undesirable change, but it will be a detriment. In my opinion, it's already existing detriment to the neighbor, I think, being that close without a variance or a building permit, but
Can I just
we've
say?
never split that up before, though.
Well,
So
I
it's
don't
new
think
for
we've
me
ever had
and
need to.
everything here is new for me right now.
Just again, for the benefit of the applicants. If that existing structure had gotten a variance to be there, I think you'd be on much more solid ground as saying we just. It's not technically grandfathered in, but that concept that it's already been said to be okay there.
yeah, but the law says you can't increase non-conforming.
I'm not asking for that. I'm just trying to explain to
No, I
them
understand.
that there's no sense that what's there is okay, but what's there actually isn't okay.
Except the fact we have the 2 years, where nobody objected in the first place, it should be there.
That does not change the fact that it was in violation of the.
No, but it does change the nature. They could have required the structure to be taken out if somebody objected, but in the 2 years, nobody did object. So it's an existing structure that didn't need a building permit, isn't technically is a violation of the zoning. But nobody objected for 2 years, so that kind of takes, the way I'm hearing it, that kind of takes away the objection. Like right?
All right, well,
That's really none of that's. an
Okay,
issue.
yeah.
I'm just explaining that, we have had cases in the past where something was in violation, and so we said, okay, if you're in no more violation than what's existing, we can probably live with it. The trouble is that the violation here shouldn't have been allowed in the
Well,
first
and
place.
the garage is so much bigger and more permanent, so.
So- I'm not going to cut off debate too early, but are we ready for a vote? A vote on this, an I vote would mean that we grant the variance, and a nay vote would mean that we deny it.
Could I try to ask Niels one more thing, because I am stuck on this idea if we.
Yes, please.
Is it part of zoning to defend a neighbor that doesn't ask to be defended? Like, is that anything in the reason that we're here? Like, the neighbor actually didn't complain,
The neighbor did not complain. They sent.
but we're still worried about the neighbor. So I'm just wondering, is that valid or?
And they also submitted a letter stating support for the proposal. I think what the board is wrapping its head around right now is potential future owner,
Right.
right? And there's nothing under zoning that would indicate one way or another. I mean, it's up to the board to weigh that. You have that authority to weigh that, but there's nothing that's going to give the board under zoning, anything that's going to help you decide one way or the other.
Oh, something
Thank you.
else we should probably bring up. Since we don't have a
David?
full quorum of our board.
No, we do.
We have a quorum. We
No.
have a quorum. We have a chair.
No, but we do not have a full, in other words, if one of us says no, then I think the thing dies, doesn't it?
The only, if it was split, if you had 2 for and 2 against, then
Right.
it would fail. But if you have 3 for and 1 against, it would pass.
I think where David is headed with this, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we adjourn it, table it till there's a full board here, things might be different, but
I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
what the applicant to determine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, whatever,
yeah.
whatever.
Well, so just as a information, by state law, you have the board has 62 days from the date of this hearing to issue a decision, so you could table it until the next meeting if you wanted to.
Does that
Does it
require,
have 62 days from a decision being made,
From the date of the hearing,
the date of the hearing? Okay.
so I would count this as the date of hearing, the first one. If you postponed it, I would do another round of notification, just to make sure that we're all safe. But yeah, that 62 days would start from today.
Are we being asked to?
I don't think so. So I'd like to bring this to the floor for a vote. If there's no further discussion, again, if everyone understands, I can read it again if you'd like. Consent,
You guys can decide.
excuse me, what?
what you want to take.
Oh, okay. He said we could decide if we wanted to table it. No one has to ask us.
I know,
He was talking to me, I think. But,
okay.
Can you remind me what you said for, achieved by some other method?
I'm sorry?
Could it be, what did you say for the one that is about being achieved by some other method? You said it.
That it can be achieved by another method.
Okay, and what method were you thinking of?
Bring a driveway down the far side, the other side of the property and building a garage behind the house.
Okay,
Those would be more blacktop.
it doesn't seem feasible and it's more blacktop, yeah, so that one's not very convincing to me, but, okay, I'm ready, I think,
It can be done, it's not optimal,
right,
but it can be done.
I mean, are we allowed to speak or not?
that's up to you.
Yeah, I'll recognize you, Mr. Tyler, if you want to add something.
Yeah, as far as being desirable, taking it out around the backside of the house. It's wet out there. We would not build a garage out back. I mean, it's to the point of, it's not usable to the point that we'd want to use it, but it's gonna be out in quite a wet area. And that's where all the drainage for the house goes. We'd be rerouting everything, but we'd be routing it uphill. It's not, that's where it goes to. So it's wet out behind the house.
Oh, well, that's information that isn't in the.
Well,
Isn't in
we
the
can put that
application,
in
so, yeah, but I understand now that
If,
then the answer is that it cannot be achieved by another method that we can see at this point. If that's-
very unpractical, and we wouldn't push it to be.
Right.
And then, I mean, Scott, the neighbor, has identified it's his property, and he is okay with keeping the same line to the utilities as well as the shed that's there. His future of that is his. I mean, if he sells it, he'd be selling it. This is what I approved. It's not that. Would he have to change the value of his property if he sold it in the future? I don't know, not the way things are right now, I don't think, but, it's his property. It's his property for today. It's his property for the future. If he wants to sell it to somebody, it would be sold as a conforming next door neighbor's property shed garage. I don't see where the future buyer is gonna come in and say, well, I wanna put something right on the line too. It's just like,
Yeah.
get a zoning, it's bad.
It's not that, and again, this is the big battle that's going on in Caroline right now. You can't tell me what to do with my property. But the whole essence of zoning is to make sure that in perpetuity, things are done properly for people who buy property in the future so that they aren't up against something that shouldn't have happened. You know, the zoning is to protect not just the current property owner, but down the line. And it's that person down the line who will be impacted by a big garage 5 feet from his property line.
So, I seem to, I visited the site and I know Cheryl has too, and others maybe have. And, you know, if you look at it from the road, everything appears to drain down towards Reynolds Road. You know, the house is much higher than the road. The shed is a little bit higher than the road, and it comes down and I think there's a ditch there, right on that side. I know there's a ditch across the road.
There is,
So
a-
that-
And so is that, are you saying that then it slopes
So
backward
it
behind the
slopes-
house?
Yes, it slopes back down and then it slowly goes back up for the far back of the property.
And that's why it's wet back there.
Yes, so the neighbor that built the driveway with the barn in the way back, he had to put drainage in that low spot. To put his driveway, otherwise it wouldn't have happened.
So it's feasible with drainage.
we are draining out of a pond. So we would just say it'd have to be pumped. It's up in all directions from the back of the dooryard's wet. So it would be up towards the driveway that the neighbor just put in, and it would be up towards the back of the property, and it's up towards the house, so. The house drainage, that's where it goes, heat troughs and clear drains.
I was, I was thinking that it would be feasible to go back there, and now I'm not sure. And so I'd actually like more time to look at that. But I'm wondering what would it have a real big adverse impact if we table this until the next meeting? And looked at further, look at the drainage and the situation there a little more closely. Maybe have other members of the BZA who are not here do a site visit as well. Would,
This is just not seasonal, but with the January, spring weather that we've been having. We put the permit in October. Our goal was to get it out of the ground. Now, so if Mother Nature, if we push it to February, we most likely wouldn't be doing it until well into the spring. The goal is to do it, but that is better than saying reject. And absolutely, we don't have another place on that property that we would identify right now and meets the need of what they're trying to do.
Is it?
Some, I'm sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
sure.
I
Well,
didn't-
some of it's not feasible, but some of it is not really desirable. If we move it closer to the house to take away the 24-foot depth, we wouldn't be able to get to 24. I mean, at 24, there would be nothing left of a garage to turn into or anything. If we took away another 5 feet, would we still build the garage? Probably. You wouldn't put a full-size pickup truck in that, though.
No,
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Does anyone else have any other questions before we pause for a vote?
I take it you folks do not want to, you can request we adjourn it and table it. You have that,
but I don't think that's gonna go in their favor.
no, but I'm saying they do. They're the applicants. They have that privilege.
Right.
And so do you. I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying that is something you could request.
Mhm.
We table it to the next meeting. I'm not sure I would recommend that, but I'm just saying that that's,
Good point made.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we're desiring it. Yes, it would take the ability for us to build it now out, but it may not deny it.
well, I mean, there'll be other people here at the next meeting. We'll probably have to go through substantially all this from scratch. So the other individuals will be able to hear the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that where else I could put it. And,
Okay, can we, if with no other comments or discussion, would clerk call the ayes and
before,
nays?
all technical thing,
Yeah,
is it a 24 by 24 or is it a 24 by 26?
It's 24 by 26. It's 24 deep, 26 wide. I drew that in the building permit, it's 24, 26.
Mhm.
And the zoning, the narrative, it's me, I wrote 24, 24, and then in the drawing in the back, I wrote the 24, 26.
Okay,
It is 26
so in
wide.
our resolution or whatever, in our final thing, it should be 24, 26.
Yeah.
with
Need to
18.
change paragraph 2.
Okay, yes, yes,
I also believe procedurally you have a motion by Tom that needs to be.
second, it hasn't been seconded yet. So we have a motion by Tom for the resolution.
I think I seconded it.
Yeah.
For
Dave,
discussion.
Dave Tyler seconded it for discussion.
Just to get the
and,
thing on the floor.
We have discussed it, and if we could clerk call a roll for the attending BZA members, please.
All right. Andy,
Aye.
Nay,
Tom,
Are you calling the roll or we're just speaking up? I'm a nay.
Cheryl,
Five.
Okay, two of the motion fails. And sorry, but you're the
So David, you're aware that you voted against the variance,
no,
because it was a little twisted with the words. so I
no,
didn't know if everyone
I
got it.
voted. Negative
Okay.
for the applicant.
Is there any other? Go back to my. Yes. Thank you. The motion fails. The appeal has been denied. For. Do we have any other BZA member or staff reports? That we have remaining? How about a report from our liaison, town board liaison?
Do they need any more information from us? Or,
Can you,
Well, I mean, building a garage for their property is, we're not doing it now, we can't. There is not another feasible place to put it. The next door neighbor approved it, so, I mean, do I agree with the voting? No,
Of course not.
what I mean, I don't get a vote. We will not be building another structure or whatnot on their property.
You can challenge this in court.
or you could submit something a little different if you wanted to. I think you can't submit the same thing again, but you could reduce it in size or increase the setback or something that, and try that.
Right, I mean, you were willing to say we could, we could put it out back. Can we bring it 5 feet more off the property line? The neighbors have been.
I think you have to resubmit it like with your best, I mean, maybe whatever you want to resubmit based on what you've heard and what you need and want.
we've voted and we can't rescind that vote at this point. I'd suggest talking to a planner and if maybe coming up with a different plan.
Sorry.
Thank you for your time.
Yes,
All right.
We have a report.
Well, I think it would, I think, you hardly ever have our attorney.
So I can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear at all.
The town attorney on at the meeting.
No,
No. Sometimes there's been exceptions
Right,
where we've had an attorney actually come with us for a site visit
right.
or be available for phone call.
So it's a, you can't, you're allowed to have the town attorney. As you know, at these meetings. We're the town attorney at every town board meeting now, just for making sure we're doing the right votes in the correct order, et cetera, et cetera.
and why did you start doing that? Did something come up or you just?
No, just we
Sure.
realize that things are very complicated.
Mhm.
And there, we definitely, he said, during the town board meetings, they asked for his advice on certain, can we do this, or can we not do that, or how we phrase it in the resolution of it. And there were things that came up here that I'm not sure, I'm just not sure if the attorney was here, he would say do X, Y, and Z.
Probably ought to
Oh,
talk to
good.
Steve about that.
Yeah, good
Head of the
point.
Committee.
So it's just a,
Yeah, no, bring that up with Steve and
yeah, I think it might be a good idea.
Yeah, I'll pass it on to the chair. That's,
Now,
See,
the second thing is.
I wasn't,
let's have this finished with the report.
We're getting started on the comprehensive plan. Neils is involved. We'll get gathering numbers. So I think in terms of, you're in a unique position because you see things that might need to be changed in the zoning.
Mhm.
That doesn't, like, it comes up every time, this just doesn't work, and it'd be really good to get your feedback on what you think could be better done from the BZA in terms of the comprehensive.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea for us to start compiling things like that, to turn them over. And one that, for instance, one that came up with this one was the lot coverage issue. There's a lot of asphalt there, but that's not considered part of the impervious lot coverage, the way I understand it from, and it seems like it should be. We've often talked about this, like swimming pool. Is the swimming pool impervious? If it's open and the rain falls in it, there's no runoff, but if it's covered over,
And then the well, and should the well be allowed to be 2 feet? I mean, that may be something that needs to get addressed.
yeah, well, and it does extend above the ground too, like a definition of a structure, so the wellhead pops up.
If you have these recurring questions, and we bring them to the comp plan and resolve them, to make your job easier, because it's clearer.
Thanks.
I think the
Thank you.
thing we all have to bear in mind is that the whole point of this board is to deal with situations where someone wants to do something that does not comply with zoning.
Yeah.
And we exist to say, yeah, it doesn't comply, but it's not so bad, we're gonna let it go ahead anyway. And that's where the flex comes from the law.
Yeah,
So
The
that's
point I
what-
was-
That's what we should be,
and today was a hard one because it was really
yeah.
not,
I mean, I would
Right,
love to
but-
have them build it, but I can't go based on what I've seen us do in the past. I can't say, oh yeah, you can build that close. I mean. We had one where if are we still being recorded on the record?
Yes,
We've had past cases where that kind of an issue has come up and. We have to decide whether we agree to go beyond the zoning requirements or not. And in this case, by 2-2, we decided we would not go beyond zoning.
Well, anyway, one of the reasons I didn't push them to have a table was looking at the people who were not here.
I know, you're trying to get other people here.
can we have a motion to,
That's not something that should go in the record that you don't.
I'll prove it.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting and,
Wait, I'm still.
Oh.
Let me just finish.
yes, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
Jot down as we go through some ideas. This would be better, this is clearer, and this is, we have trouble with this almost on every variance. We should clarify, that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you, yeah.
And I think we'll have a general meeting probably with the planning board and the BZA to go over things as we get along. But we've got a nice $55,000 grant to help with the comp plan last week, which was very nice.
And what will that pay for? What? Consultants, lawyers,
Yeah.
planners,
Oh, yeah.
Outreach.
outreach? Good. Congratulations, that's great. Well, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Yeah, that made it,
Dave, second by
Second.
Tom. All in favor, say aye. Meeting's adjourned.
yeah, did I ever tell you about this, the time when I was an applicant in front of the BZA in the city,
mm,
and there were only 3 board members.
uh-huh,
So we either have it unanimous or we had failed.
Right, because 3
So they gave us
constitutes
the
the
choice.
majority
And
of
you
the
want to
5-person
proceed
board.
or wait till we have more people here.